trying to get as far down as the table. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get the table. That's as pretty far as I'm gonna get, so.
Okay, so maybe when they come up, they can come and use one of these.
Yeah, maybe come up, maybe they can come up to this
Off to
table.
this side, yeah,
Which one? This
like right
one?
over there. Right?
That might be better. Okay,
Come up to that table perhaps.
Yeah, that should be fun.
let me turn these mics.
So when you guys come up, instead of using the center one like we usually do, it's probably better to come up here anyway, because you have the Zoom microphones, right? Do you want them there, Marcy, or do you want them, because the Zoom mic is here? Can you usually pick it up okay?
It doesn't matter. I
Okay.
mean, this way they'll be facing you, otherwise.
Sounds good.
Okay, turn these off. Okay. Okay, I think you're good.
Okay,
You're being recorded, you're good.
recording, let us know when we're recording.
You're recording, you're good.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I apologize for us being a little late. But that's because of technical issues that we have. As I had said before we got on mic, that the good thing about this system is that there are individuals who, this system meaning the Zoom system, are that there are individuals who might want to come to meetings and who can't. But the real negative thing about it is that it controls the whole meeting process. Luckily, we could get this working and going today. If we hadn't, we would have had to cancel the meeting. I'd like to welcome all guests, and especially Mayor-elect Rossi. Thank you very much, Mr. Rossi, for coming. I think that you are the only elected official or council member we have out there, as I can see now. As I have communicated to both the council and to Mayor-elect Rossi, during the past several weeks, Chief Financial Officer Donnell Bright, Business Administrator Tina Kraus, and I have been meeting with select members of the municipal staff and reviewing, discussing their budget related departmental requirements for 2024. The entire staff has started with their 2024 budget development process with my direction that they look for cost savings opportunities in every departmental line item. The municipal budget development process and the related statutory budget deadlines are governed and directed by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services, which has the statutory responsibility for developing and implementing state of New Jersey rules and regulations on fiscal operations, the fiscal reporting, and overseeing the fiscal condition of all New Jersey municipalities. One of the statutory requirements that have been established by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services is that I, as the current mayor, begin the development of the framework for the next year's municipal budget. And that before the end of November, I host a public internal hearing with my staff on the development of this budget framework. This hearing is being held in fulfillment of that requirement. So that's what this is about. There are costs that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey must absorb because we have no way of avoiding these costs. There are minimum tasks that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey are required by law to perform. And there are costs that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey must absorb because we have no way of avoiding those costs. I speak of costs such as the cost that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey must pay to provide health benefits to our municipal employees. Costs that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey must pay for the gasoline and diesel fuel for our municipal vehicle fleet, including our fire and EMS apparatus. Costs that our municipality and every other municipality in New Jersey must pay into the state retirement system for our municipal employees. And costs that our municipality must pay to SCUMA to treat the effluent from our municipal sewage system, and B, dispose of the materials from our municipal recycling center. Because of these and other costs, the great majority of the 2024 municipal budget will be spent to pay for the same needs as previous municipal budgets. For example, over the past decade plus, just 7 major expense categories have accounted for 88%. That's almost 90% of the total dollars in the municipal annual budget. Didn't really matter who's mayor or who's on the council. Those are 7 major categories have accounted for the money that we spent. And they've accounted for it because these are things that we've got to fund. We have no choice as a municipality. The major challenge for the new mayor will be determining not necessarily where those dollars are spent in terms of those major categories, because anything else, you're just going to be fiddling around the edges, and you really aren't going to be able to impact this big budget. The major challenge for the new mayor will be determining how the municipality will be able to fund the 2024 municipal budget and do it in a way that will have the least negative impact on the taxes of the homeowners. That's the real task. During these last 49 days that I have remaining as mayor, my objective will be to develop a budget framework that will make it easier for Mayor-elect Rossi, that'll make it more effective and efficient for Mayor-elect Rossi to accomplish that task. Because I have been meeting and continue to meet with municipal department heads and reviewing and discussing their 2024 budget-related departmental requirements and plans, this statutorily required November public hearing with them will be short and it'll be direct. I hope that those residents who are not able to view this hearing either in person or by Zoom will watch it later by YouTube through our town's official municipal budget site. So with that, let's get started. Ms. Bright?
I'm actually going to kick it over to Tina, the administrator, who's going to start off for general administration.
Okay, so a couple of my accomplishments over the 10 months I've been here. We dealt with retirees, promotion, new hires, update policy and procedure manual, the new health benefits provider, employee safety training, crosswalk at Route 644 to utilize risk control, grant for signage, replace large copiers with lease and digital fax, replace large map copier, replace municipal server, shared service agreement for EMS, LoSAP program, town center water redeveloper meetings, issue 200 food licenses, collect health receipts of $45,000. Plans for next year, which I'm actually in process of working on right now, is a new access store management system. And we have to do another large copier lease renewal. As for the budget.
And before she goes on, let me just say, because we are going to have a new mayor and several new council members, what I ask each individual to do is to talk a little bit about what they did last year and what kind of plans they might have next year at this point in time, and then talk those line items. And I'd like to acknowledge the fact that Councilmember Zudo has just come in. Welcome, Councilmember. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So our budget for this year, for 2023, for general salaries and everything was 181,000. Proposed for 2024 is 177,000. As for the general administration, it will be increased about $10,000, and that's due to any kind of service agreements and any kind of professional services that their actual pay is going to be going up. And that's pretty much for administration.
Okay. Again, just the framework for the administration, the mayor, legal, and fees, what have you. Just give you an idea, members of the public and Mayor Rossi, just a little bit about where we had projected that money to go. Of course, that decision will be yours. Who next? We have the clerk.
Well, I'm gonna
Okay,
go
I'm
through
sorry.
mayor and council, legal services, engineering, technology, and
sorry.
commissions. That's okay. So mayor and council, everything is staying the same from, last year, from 2023 to 2024. So salaries and wages are staying at 45,000. And the O and E line is staying at $6,150. Legal services, last year, our budget line was $344,000. I've increased that to $351,500. I'm not sure what the retainer is gonna look like. I don't know what the next mayor is gonna do regarding our legal obligation for an attorney for the township attorney. So I've added additional funds in there just to keep us safe. I've also added additional funds for in-rem foreclosures with regards to closing on properties that we have a lot of tax title liens on. There's an increase there. Engineering services is staying the same at $40,000 from 2023 to 2024. And technology is also staying the same at $38,000 from 2023 to 2024.
And let me just say, Mr. Mayor, some of these figures are based on the people who we have now and what their contracts are. And of course, you might want to do something different. One of the things that I'm going to do to help you prepare for that, I have prepared, and I will provide you a list of all of our professionals. I'll give you their names, all their contact information. And of course, then you can use that to contact them and make decisions in terms of what you really want to do. But these figures that we're looking at now is based on what they charge us now. And as Ms. Bright said, she doesn't necessarily know what you're going to do and what the salary is going to be. But I will do my best to prepare you to be able to do that. You'll have ample time. I'll get that information to you this week. All right.
And finally, we have the commissions and committees. So it's Economic Development Committee. I kept all of these the same, again, because this is usually discussions that we have with the mayor. So for 2024, Economic Development O&E line is $500. The Environmental Commission salaries and wages line item is $500. The Environmental Commission general expenses O&E line is $500. Nothing was put aside for the Historic Committee. Beautification Committee O&E expenses is $6,500. And again, nothing for the GAT committee because those haven't been done in a long time.
And again, some of these committees you might want to continue on. Some of the budgeted items that we budgeted for them, you might want to change in any way, but this is what we currently have. So you'll be able to take a look at these data sheets that we're looking at now, once you become mayor, and you'll be able to see and be able to clearly make your decision on that.
Okay, next up, we have the clerk.
Good morning.
Nay.
I just wanted to give you some of the accomplishments the clerk's office has had this year. Unfortunately, we don't take care of roads or vehicles or anything, so our accomplishments aren't as grand as some other departments. The clerk's office at this date has taken in $164,000 approximately. Unfortunately, with the 544 Oprah requests we have done so far, we don't get much money in for that. We've had 115 marriage license applications so far this year, and we have issued, which is the biggest so far, 943 certified copies. Those are marriage, death, and birth certified copies. We do have a lot of other licenses that we collect fees for. The vacant property registration is one of our highest. We collected $117,000. Our long-term rental registration is almost $13,000 so far. So those were our accomplishments. Again, we don't have a grand scale accomplishments, but customer service is one of our biggest goals. As far as our budget, the only thing that I have changed this year is our salaries, and that's contractual. Everything else I kept the same. Our biggest expense is elections between what we get charged for the county and our supplies. Our education and seminars is staying the same. We do have, our part-timer this year who started with us is now, certified as a, registrar, so she will need CEUs for that also. Codification of our ordinances, we're on track with that. And like I said, everything else has stayed the same.
You know, Marcy runs a very, very tight ship. Mr. Mayor-elect and I, on our form of government, the clerk literally reports to the council. And I'm sure the council members will tell you because they scrutinize things very well. She runs a pretty tight ship. So if you look at what she just said, salaries, nothing increased except contractual, got people in the union. And then you've got the education and seminars that they really, really need to keep update because the state of New Jersey constantly changes things. But thank you very much, Marcy. You've done an excellent job.
Thank you.
Tax collection?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
One,
So now I have one real quick question. Are we still able to order,
Order.
like supplies?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We have a pretty big one to do. So my budget for 2024 really hasn't changed. These salaries actually went down because I did lose my full-time person. A couple of line items I have not used are the education conferences. I was unable to attend that this past May. And my advertising has not been used yet because my tax sale is only going to happen next.
Right.
Everything else, like I said, everything is basically the same. I still need to use for office supplies. We have a huge order to place, but we were a little bit inundated with tax time. It was kind of a difficult quarter. And as far as our key projects for 2023, everything is run by statute. So we have the obligations to do the reports, meet deadlines, things like that. And one of the projects not a project that I want, I'm hoping to get a new folding machine because that folding machine is kind of a nightmare. And I would like to, and Pitney Bowes is constantly in here. And we hand stuff the estimated bills because the machine won't take the small piece of paper. And when the tax bills actually came out, over 12,000 of them sitting all around my office, they all had to be hand stuffed because the folding machine just didn't want to work.
I do have that on our capital list.
And we did have a meeting a week ago, Friday or something, with Pitney Bowes for their sales pitch. One of my main concerns for 2024 is to get back a full-time person. With my 20-year veteran retiring, that was completely knowledgeable. It's just we're sinking. We're sinking. I really, really like to get a full-time person back in there. It's draining. The lack of manpower, it's really draining, and it's tough, especially at a tax level. Pretty much all I have.
The tax collector had indicated that she had lost a full-time person, retired. Absolutely correct. One of the things that we always attempt to do whenever someone leaves, we see what options we have from a cost saving standpoint. At the same time, we need to do things so that the department can still do its job. And so essentially what we did, we hired one person that we split between two departments, that kind of person. So I think that the tax collector will be making her case to you in terms of why she needs that other individual. And you can kind of make a decision on that. But I will tell you that they have a lot of work to do down there. You know, we always have to try to look out and see what we can cut. And so we try things, and if things don't work, you know, you do something different. And so we've had some experience with this person, with this part-time situation now. The business administrator's been keeping close tabs on that. And they'll be able to communicate that to you. You can make your own decision. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Tax assessment?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have my accomplishments and projects for next year. Biggest one everyone knows about is the annual reassessment program. On average annually, county tax appeal loss, we're saving $201,847.80 per year. And our legal and expert fees, we're saving just shy of $26,000 per year. Next year, we'll have to review with the new mayor and whoever's on council pros and cons of the program. The contract is up for the 2025 tax year, which means the work is all being done for that final year next year, 2024. So we'll go over pros and cons of the program, see where we stand as far as renewal or not. Tax appeals at the state and county level. As I just mentioned, we're continuing to see significant savings with appeal refunds. And I'm working really hard since I started in 2019 to reduce our state tax court appeal load. Those appeals go back to 2014. And we've reduced it a lot over the past 4 years, but there's still outstanding cases, quite a number of them. And there's still one very large one that, you know, I was hopeful to have wrapped up by the end of this year, but the judge retired and now we have a new judge, and the plaintiff has changed their legal counsel as well. So we still have quite a bit of work to do at the state level of tax appeals. So next year going forward, I am hopeful that the new judge, from what we've seen so far, he just started in August, is being really proactive in moving cases along where the prior judge was not. So I am hopeful we'll get some of these larger cases wrapped up next year. Added assessments, we are still continuing over the past 3 years or so to gain more ratables through added assessments than we're losing through tax appeals. That's great because that's what helps stabilize the tax rate for everybody in town. We've reviewed 209 farmland assessment applications this year. That's something that's done every year. As applications, new ones are approved and some older ones are denied. That number changes year to year. This year it was 209. We review the deduction and exemption applications. We have 484 total deductions in Vernon. And we have 63 exempt veterans who need to be approved through an application process. Another thing I did this year was the presentation for the annual reassessment program. As far as the budget goes, there's a small salary increase. We have union employees in my department. That's contractual. And everything pretty much else has stayed the same other than a few categories I've reduced, which is our tax appeal expert. I've reduced $5,000. That's really it. Everything else pretty much has stayed the same. I reduced advertising $50 because I do just one advertisement a year of the tax list. But pretty much everything else has stayed the same.
Yeah, so the overall total is minimal. You got like a $2,000, not even $1,000 increase.
Yes.
From last year to this year. So your salaries and wages are 224, and your O&E line went down to 135. So.
And I think one of the key takeaways from that, Mr. Mayor-elect, is that some of these tax appeals takes a very long time. Individuals continue to appeal. she talked about state court tax appeals. We're working on ones from 2014 to 2019. One of the good things, there are pros and cons about everything. And one of the pros of our annual reassessment is that we have not had a lot of new tax appeals to come on board because individuals know they aren't likely to win them simply because of the fact that their taxes are reflected accurately. So we've seen a significant reduction in refunds. For your information, the interesting thing about this is that I think it's probably 26 cents, something like that, of every $1 that we collect goes to take care of the municipal budget. When individuals paid their taxes, 65% or something of that nature of that goes to schools, the rest goes to county, and we have about 26 cents. Now, whenever there's a tax appeal, however, the county has to pay, excuse me, not the county, municipality has to pay 100% of that back. So in many ways, the tax appeals and the loss of these tax appeals hurt us because now we've gotta put more on the taxpayer, for lack of a better word, because of that. It's an interesting kind of process. And I know you're probably prepared along with council members to have the discussion about the annual reassessment process. But there's some pros and cons, and whichever way it goes, we as residents will deal with it. But I'm impressed by the dollars that we're saving from that standpoint. A lot of times it's very difficult to be able to verbalize those dollars to many residents, especially when they see they're getting feedback on an annual basis that they normally would not get back on a 7, 8, or 9, a 10-year basis or what have you. But it's a task that's got to be done. So I want to thank you very much. As I look at your budget, it's only about $1,000 over.
Last year, yeah,
How much?
from last year.
From last year. Pretty tight budget from that standpoint. Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have land use.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm just gonna start off real quick for salaries and wages, because I did this line. So salaries and wages, while we don't have, while none of the employees there are contractual, I just included a 2% on the number from last year to this year. We do have one contractual employee that kind of moves around 3 different offices in the building, so that individual's in fire prevention and land use and building for part of the week. So there is a portion of that contractual employee in this number too, which is always a little bit higher than whatever whatever their contract says. It says 2%, but they have step increases. So last year it was $192,000 for 2023, and for 2024 it's proposed at $198,000. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna go over some major applications that we did. I'm not gonna go over everything, but we did Bright Horizons, which is the 55 and older complex. That is right on Omega and Theta. That's getting started, which is wonderful. We have FW Webb, who's doing a major overhaul and doing some outdoor storage. That got approved. Sussex Cultivation is a manufacturing for cannabis. That got approved. Route 94 LLC was a wedding and venue and brew pub. That got preliminary site plan. Restoration Agricultural, they're doing a farm to table and wedding venue. They got preliminary site plan approval. Elias Brew Works is going to be a brew pub down on Roottown Road. That got approved. Rosemark Realty, that's on Maple Grange Road. They got approved for manufacturing cannabis. Mountain Dispensary got approved in McAfee for retail cannabis. And then we had Mountain Creek Master Plan update. So those are a few of the major things that we had done this year. Next year, we have Route 94 coming back for their final. Restoration is coming back for their final, and I anticipate 4 to 5 major applications coming in for next year so far. And then budget is, I kept all the numbers basically the same. I moved some numbers around here and there, but we came in exactly this to what it was last year.
Right, which last year it was $49,500, so it stays the same.
Thank you.
Thank,
Thank you.
We've got some good things on the horizon here in our town. Things take a very, very long time. Number one, the municipality is not buying property and we are not developing things. It's not our money. The thing that we can do is to get out of the way to ensure to the greatest extent that people can develop their property and do what they want to do within the law. And to help in any way we possibly can. So Kim mentioned the fact that there's quite a few things that'll be coming before them. And when you consider that, and we don't always know exactly how many, because of the fact that individuals say we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and sometimes their financial situation, other things hold it up. But considering the fact that they've got a lot ahead of them, and this budget, I think, is pretty good in terms of what she's planning for. And I think that you will probably, I believe that you will probably see the same kind of thing. But I think the key thing with land use is that we do have a lot of good things on the horizon coming forward. Okay.
Okay, next up, we have building department.
good morning.
Some of the key accomplishments and changes. I was hired as the construction official in January to take over for Bob Westenberger, who passed away. And then we interviewed and hired a new plumbing subcode official. So we're a pretty big transition there from last year in the staff. We issued 1,574 permits as of today. We've performed 5,035 inspections this year so far. We've issued 1,790 certificates, which is closing the permits. One of the tasks that we've been working on is we had a company come in and give us a proposal for digitizing our records. We have a huge room full of boxes, files. We're going to hope to convert into digital records so that it's be accessible through SDL. We reorganized the room where we keep all the records and the closed permits. And then I established a monthly building department meeting where we all get together for 15 minutes and just discuss ways that we can streamline or improve just the way we interact and work with each other. Some of the planned key projects and concerns for 2024 would be to get going with the converting the records from physical to digital. And then we have a couple of large projects that are going to begin. One would be the senior housing complex on Theta. Sussex cultivation, the cannabis facility and processing. That's kind of it for that. And the budget is salaries and wages will go up a little bit.
So I think you have 1, 2, 3, like basically 4 contractual employees in that office.
Right.
So it only went up 8,000 between last year. It was 470,000 to 478,000 this year, which is pretty good, considering those 4 employees that are in there. We did reallocate where the person that moves around to the different offices, I reallocated the hours to fit exactly where that person is for during the week. We were kind of taking best guesstimate when we tried this out at the start of last year. So everything is appropriated correctly now for the total number of hours in each office, so.
Okay, and then one line that goes up significantly would be the computer. And that is, we're budgeting some money for digitizing there, right?
Yes, yeah, for scanning those documents right now, like Paul said, everything is in very, very large bankers boxes in the storage room. Some of those our employees can't even reach, and I don't want them hurting themselves to do that. Most towns have moved towards digitization and scanning all those back documents so that when you bring up something in SDL, it's all right there. Everything that was done for that property is all at your fingertips. It's gonna help them for Oprah requests too, to be able to fill those out or complete those in a smaller time frame than waiting for additional time to be able to reach those documents and sift through them. So it is costly, but it's the direction that all municipalities are going in for ease of access, and also so we don't have to keep boxes of paper that could go up in flames anyway. So I don't really understand why we need to keep them, but so I think it's a good idea. We budgeted, I think we did it over a 5-year span, so we budgeted a dollar amount to take care of 1 year of that 5-year course. So last year's 2023 budget was $17,750. Next year is an increase to $31,500, but I think for that scanning, it's really necessary.
That's about it for the building department.
Let me just highlight a couple of things. Again, this is a little difference in the sense that, I think that part of my job at this point in time, Mr. Mayor-elect, is to help you to come in and be successful. So I'm directing a lot of my comments to you from that standpoint. And we've already had some personal and private conversation, and we'll have more. But I think that it's really important that the municipality continues to be successful, and it won't be unless you are successful. And I'm a resident in the town, so that's what I'm attempting to do. There are a couple of things as it relates to the building department. The building department, interesting kind of department. Most of us, most residents probably interact with the building department 2-3 times in their lives, maybe if that many. You know, you do a kitchen or you do this, you do that. You have a very good experience, then your opinion about the building department is going to be very positive. If you have a very bad experience, then your opinion about the building department is not going to be much. And so one of the things that we've been trying to do is to change some kind of the image of what people view about the building department. And this is not to throw anybody under the bus, but there are lots of things in terms of how we operated in the past that really kind of handicapped us. One of the things that Mr. Black has been charged with doing, is managing the effectiveness and efficiency of the office. And the whole thing of digitizing stuff is really kind of like part of that. Some of these records have not been updated, and we're trying to do this in a cost-effective and efficient manner. As Ms. Bright said, we look at the cost of this, and we're trying to spread the cost out over a 5-year period of time. That way, it has the lowest impact on our budget. And then managing the service to the residents. I think that Mr. Black will be able to share with you some things that's quantifiable, the number of inspections that we've had last year versus this year and what we're doing with it. One of the things that we're attempting to do is to hire individuals with multiple licenses. That helps us out in a sense, rather than having 5 people with 5 different licenses who are using 5 different vehicles going out and making inspections. That's cost of gasoline and what have you, and that's time. You know, you make your electrical inspection, then, okay, when am I going to have the other portion of it? Well, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever the case might be. We can have one person who could do several different things, and we've done some effectiveness and efficiency from that standpoint. So managing the level of service to our residents, and I've seen progress in that. It depends upon when you go around and you ask people. Some people will tell you they've seen it, some they have not. One of the things that I do what I call management by walking around. I will get out of my office and I will often stop by and talk to people who are at the window. And just ask them, how's it going? And I will ask them that right in front of the staff members, so that I can kind of get a very open and honest answer. But it's a process. And I think that we're making progress in that. You'll be able to make your own determination in that terms when you sit down and talk to them. Thank you very much, Paul. You've done a good job. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, we have police and animal control. And OEM. Dispatch, I guess.
Morning.
So I'll jump right into it. Before I get started, I wanted to introduce Captain Jason Long. For those of you that know the captain, he was promoted this year. He assisted me in developing our budget. And also to his right is our administrative assistant, Ashley Wheeler. She handles all of one of her job responsibilities is all day-to-day operations of requisitions, purchase orders. So she's very knowledgeable in the sense of where exactly our money's going. So if you have any specific questions, I brought the team so we can answer anything you have. I'll jump right into some of our accomplishments. As I had mentioned in a lot of discussions with the mayors, this was a challenging year for us. We had a lot of turnover. We had a lot of retirements. And with that comes new hires and promotions and a lot of experience that retired with our guys that retired. So to give you a full understanding, since September of last year, we've had a change of 5 police officers in our department, which is pretty substantial. And you're going to see that that's reflected throughout our budget. We knew that going into this year's budget, we were going to have to budget for certain items because we were going to have additional training that was required and new hires. And at the same time, you're going to see as we go in the next year, some of those things are going to be pulled back some. So I'll go over those in detail. But as far as some of our accomplishments, this year we're working to finalize the new 911 system upgrade. That's the next gen 911. That's going to put us in compliance with the big changeover that's coming in 2025. That's a major project that we've been working on since last September, and we're almost about ready to go live on it. Hopefully Wednesday. Another big project we've been working on is the animal control shared service agreements. That's really been a focus of the administration and us, is to maximize the ability of our animal control division to bring in as much revenue as possible while utilizing our staffing levels and making sure we weren't overextending ourselves. So we started off with some 1-year agreements for a lot of towns. And right now, as we speak, we're finalizing some 3-year agreements because we found those agreements to be working very well and helping to fund our animal control division. One of the biggest things that we've been contending with is the firearms investigations. In the last few years, there's been a huge influx for firearms ID cards, permit to carries as of recently, and also permit to purchase. Just to give you an example, as of November 22nd, we did investigations for firearm ID cards. We did 236 this year. For permit to carries, we did 69 this year. And for permit to purchase, we did 637. That's all done through the online New Jersey State Police firearms registration system to help us streamline the process. All of those fees that are associated with that were increased exponentially. So I know we have quite a bit of extra revenue coming in from those specific items. In line with that, we work to finalize the credit card processing system. That's the Municipal program. That's so when people come in to pay for their firearms, whether they're applying for an ID card or permit to carry or purchase, makes it a lot more convenient for our residents to be able to just use their credit cards. We switched over our Verizon Network Fleet GPS system. We went to a new platform, still within Verizon, but it was a little bit of a cost savings for us. This one's a little more of an explanation, but we're working right now. What happened about 12, 13 years ago, the fire departments in EMS went to a new radio system. And that radio system that they went to, which is dispatched through our dispatch center, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of interoperability amongst the county. So what happens is our fire departments will respond out, mutual aid, and the fire departments aren't really able to talk to each other, which is obviously a problem. So they've been working on, adding radios for some of these other departments that respond in. So what we found this fall, I met with the OEM coordinator and with the commissioner, and we talked about it, fire commissioner. There's something called the Zello mobile radio system. And basically it's about the cost of what one portable or mobile radio would be. And we could add that to our dispatch center, and we could actually add people in by phone number. They'll be able to download an app to their phone. So you'll have fire department officers from all around the county that we add to our system. They'll be able to have interoperability on our fire department radio system through this project that we're going to put in place in the dispatch center. So we're working to see if we have enough funds in this year's OEM money to do that. If not, we'll be looking at that this year, but that could save us a substantial amount of money in equipment purchases. I already discussed the new hires and promotions. This year was a PBA contract year that was finalized for 2023. Also beginning this year, another shared service agreement, which is our focus on bringing in as much money as we possibly can to help offset costs, was the Vernon Township Fire Department and EMS Antenna Shared Service Agreement. We were able to negotiate a 5-year agreement with Vernon Township on that. That brings in $15,000 annually. That helps us to offset some of the costs on our dispatch center. We're also continuing with the enterprise fleet program. This was the first year that we actually hit the year in which the first vehicles we had got on lease through this program were the first ones to actually go. So we're in the middle of that transition now. That's a tremendous amount of work, is doing those, the trade-in and the new vehicle upfitting each year. We implemented this year the seamless New Jersey crash report system that was done through our computer-aided dispatch center, CAD system, so to speak. So what that does is that allows us to automatically report New Jersey, the NJTR ones for people that have crashes. That automatically now gets pushed out to the state. That's not having to be done through our records department, actually manually making all these copies and sending them down. We were able to actually develop this line of communication through our CAD vendor to push that information right down to the state. So saving us a tremendous amount of tedious time and work by our records clerk. Animal control, we're working right now. We already updated our animal control fees in our ordinance that was done recently. Tonight, we're actually meeting with the council. We're going over some thoughts and suggestions for a kennel license update for our ordinance. We finalized this year the firearms trade-in project that was for our firearms for our police officers. We assisted with the Atlantic Ambulance new shared service agreement. That was the changeover from St. Clair's. That was the one that the administrator talked about earlier. We finalized this year the new exterior vest carriers for our police officers. That was facilitated and funded through the forfeiture fund, which is held over at the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office. We've coordinated food donation drives. We found out just a couple of weeks ago that our local food pantries didn't have enough food for Thanksgiving for our families in town. So we jumped into action on those. We're going to continue to do that for Christmas, as we know that our food pantries are in dire straits, and we'd like to help them out and do some community service and get them some donations. We did several traffic case studies this year that included the revamping of the new school zone for the Fields of Montessori School. That's assigned to our traffic officer. It's quite a bit of work doing a traffic case study. He did one there. We also did one on Berry Drive North and also on Canister Road. Earlier this year, we finalized the grant project, which was for the new municipal enclosed trailer, which we have out back. That's for OEM and police use. And that was purchased through the statewide insurance fund safety grant. Coming up next year, we're looking at a major overhaul in police reform, which happened several years ago in light of the incident with George Floyd. New Jersey passed a law in which all police officers will now be licensed effective January 1st of 2024. We've been actively going to training and going to a lot of updates and seminars on that given by the Attorney General's office. This is going to be a major change for police in general. Every police officer as of January 1st will be licensed. There's also a lot of requirements that come with that, which will include license renewals for all of our officers. So that's going to be assigned to one of our command staff members. That's going to be a big undertaking starting this year. Some of our community involvement, which we did this year, which we're going to continue to do next year. The Trick or Trail event, the upcoming tree lighting this Friday, Vernon Day, Safety Town, Coffee with a Cop, continue to run the Share the Keys program. This is done through Vernon Township High School. We run a few programs a year that's specifically targeting all new drivers that drive to high school, and they have to bring a parent with them. In order to be able to drive to high school, they have to attend this program. We continue to do our LEAD program. That's the Law Enforcement Against Drug program. That's in the 5th grade. We're looking next year to go back to 5th and 7th grade once we're back up with our staffing numbers after the big changes this year. We weren't able to do 7th grade, but we did do 5th grade. We once again ran our Junior Police Academy this year, and that was at full capacity for attendance. We're looking at that again for next year. We're finalizing the new police department furniture project, upgrading our police department furniture, which has been highly antiquated. We just completed this year, last month, the Department of Corrections Municipal Facilities Inspection. That's done every 5 years. That's a big task that we have to work with the Department of Corrections to make sure we're able to house prisoners. We passed that. We're valid for the next 5 years. We conducted active school shooter training. That's done in coordination with our school resource officers in the schools, and we do that on site when school's closed. We have another one coming up here on winter break, and we'll look to have 2 more of those next year. I maintained my police chief accreditation for 2023. I'll continue to do whatever requirements are through the State Chiefs Association for 2024. Looking to next year, we also have the upcoming UAW contract. That's going to be handled in 2024, those negotiations. And last but not least, also the potential for an animal control building addition with all of our shared service agreements. This is the logistics of having adequate kennel runs and facilities for our cats. We need to make sure we have adequate space to accommodate everything. So we're looking at taking some of the shared service money and reinvesting right in our building and our equipment over there. To continue to make us satisfy those agreements that we signed. All right, I'll run into our budget quick. So as I mentioned, we had significant staffing changes. So with that, our regular salaries did not increase too much. There's a slight increase on our regular salaries. Our overtime, we remain the same. Longevity, there was about a $16,000 decrease. That's because some of our senior officers retired. So with them also the longevity doesn't continue. Administrative staff, there's a slight increase there. That's contractual. The payment for college credits, that's a contractual item. There was also a slight decrease there. That's down by about $2,000. That's directly related to the retirements. The detective allowance, that is now included in base pay as per the PBA contract. So that's no longer included as its own specific line item. So that's now 0. Our special officers, we did decrease that line item by about $500. Actually, that correction. Yeah, it was $500. We decreased that. The state of New Jersey passed, the Attorney General, I should actually say, gave guidance on when law enforcement officers are allowed to be at polling locations. So we no longer are allowed to staff our special officers at polling locations on voting days. So we just have a less need or use for those special officers. So I decreased that. Supervisor coverage remains the same as last year. Moving down to operating expenses, office supplies, that remains the same. Equipment rental and maintenance, that's the same. Education, conference, and seminars, that's the same. Materials and supplies is the same. There's an increase in uniform allowance. That's specifically connected to the PBA contract. That was a negotiated item. Uniform replacement, there's a decrease there. That's going from $9,000 last year down to $6,000. That's specifically aligned with, we had to increase that last year because of the number of new officers that we hired. We needed to make sure we had enough money to cover the uniforms. And also along the lines with, that also plays into promotions as well. Tuition reimbursement, that remains the same. That's a contractual item. Miscellaneous, that remains the same as last year. Doctors and exams, there you also see a reduction there from $4,500 to $3,000. That's directly linked to the requirements when we hire a new police officer for psychological and physical. Obviously, we're not going to be hiring the same amount of officers this year, so I was able to reduce that line item. Ammunition remains the same. The enterprise interest, that remains the same. Technology remains the same. Detective expenses, we reduced that by 50% from $500 to $250. That's money that's available for certain types of controlled substance buys, things like that, that our detectives would be doing in coordination with the prosecutor's office. Some years we don't use that, some years we need it, so we had to leave that in there. I just reduced the amount that we have in there. Membership and publications, there's a slight increase over last year. That's directly linked to the new police licensing requirements. All officers that are hired after January 1st, there's a police licensing fee attached to each of those officers, so I had to increase that line item. There's a slight increase in our service contracts. That's just directly aligned to increases by our vendors. If you look back to 2022, you'll see that we're still 2,000 less than our 2022 line item for that. So while we're up from last year, we're still down from 2 years ago. Moving right down to Junior Police Academy. I did reduce that by 50%. I know you're probably wondering why when we're at full capacity. So last year we asked for $3,000. This year we're asking for $1,500 in the proposed budget. The reason for that change is money became available through the opioid settlement fund. That fund is managed by the Attorney General's office, which they then trickle down to the county, and then they tell us exactly how we could spend those funds. So there's certain things that meet the requirements of what we could use that money on. And one of the things we can use that on is the Junior Police Academy. So I offset the cost of that in the budget. Total proposed budget for 2024 is $4,586,273. That is just under a 1% increase from last year. That increase equals $40,583. We were able to keep that relatively flat like that, specifically because of the retirements. We had so many retirements and new hires. Obviously, there was a significant cost savings there. Questions on the police officer second? I'll move right into radio communications, salary and wages. There's a slight increase over last year. That's contractual for salaries. Overtime, that remains the same as last year. Longevity is no longer applicable. Nobody is employed in our dispatch center that gets longevity. TAC training officer, that's a contractual item that remains the same as last year. And holiday pay is the same. That's contractual. That remains the same as last year. Into operating expenses, that remains the same as last year for office supplies. Same thing for materials and supplies, and uniform allowance all remains the same. Total dispatch increase from last year to this year is $5,363. We were able to, as I mentioned earlier, offset $15,000 of that cost directly related to the shared service agreement for the Vernon Township Fire Department and EMS antenna. I'll jump into control. Questions up?
Well, go ahead.
Okay. Animal control salary and wages. There's actually a slight reduction in salary and wages. We were able to reduce that directly aligned with we're working into the 3-year shared service agreements now, so we're able to offset some of those salary and wages costs. Overtime remains the same as last year. On-call remains the same as last year. That's a contractual item. Part-time seasonal. So that remains the same as well. We did do a census this year in Vernon Township. We're not looking to do a census next year. However, the part-time seasonal is significantly helpful in our summer months when we're very busy over animal control. So I did leave them in there.
And you guys use them too for the rabies clinic, didn't you?
Use them for the rabies clinic, yep. So moving down in the operating expenses, office supplies remains the same as last year. Materials and supplies the same, advertising the same, uniform allowance the same, uniform replacement the same. Medical supplies and food is the same. Dog census and rabies is the same. Spay and neuter is the same. Professional services is the same. So all of operating expenses is the same as last year. Overall, animal control, we reduced it by $10,000, and that was directly related compared to last year, this year. That's directly related to our shared service agreement. One thing of important to note, we did leave it flat, but there, for professional services for when we use our shelter vet. Thank you. There is time to time the need to have to explore other options for shelter vets. So that could be something we may have to, that might be a challenge for us next year. So we're seeing how it goes right now, but we're working through that.
Okay.
Just to put that out. Questions on animal control? Okay, the last one we were just gonna do quickly will be OEM. Okay, for OEM salary and wages, that remains the same as last year. Equipment remains the same, materials and supplies remains the same, uniforms remains the same. The only increase that we have is for OEM service contracts, radio repairs, and maintenance. So last year we budgeted $10,000 for that line item. We did ask for $15,000, so that's an increase of $5,000. I know that seems substantial, but in direct conversations with fire departments and OEM coordinator, one of the challenges that we have is exactly how the fire department and EMS radios are being maintained. That's a pretty old, antiquated system. So as we're hitting the 12-year, 13-year mark system, there's not really any money budgeted in case of equipment failures. So we specifically looked at that, and we just had an incident just as recent as about a month ago where we had a battery backup failed over at our panorama tower, and that affected operations for our fire and EMS. You know, this is where we draw from for that. I think the most prudent thing to do would be to have the funds available for any increases, to have the funds available for any maintenance that may be required from our radio vendor. And as we approach the end of the year, if there's any other money that is left available in that, we look at the equipment in there that we could start doing some minor upgrades to some of the old antiquated stuff that's over a decade old, because we're going to hit a year where we may just be replacing a whole bunch of things at once. So if we could have some money available in there to do some implemented, you know, over the course of the next few years, implemented to upgrade, I think that would be a better use of it. So, any questions for?
No, I'd like to thank you, Chief, for the 4 years and just for the high quality job that you do. You're literally first class.
Thank you.
At a time when people don't trust, many people don't trust their police departments, and there's conflict between the administrations and sometimes their police departments. I'm just literally honored with the relationship that we have here. People see our policemen as a friend. They don't get afraid when they see them coming, unless they're speeding. But we've known about these officer changes, and the mayor and the council worked together to ensure that we had the leadership in place to guide us through that next year. Also, when we were getting ready to, when we were interviewing for our business administrator, we knew that this department here, which is over $4 million, almost $5 million, this department's an expensive department, and all of the money we spend, we do it in a cost-effective and efficient manner. And I am extremely pleased with the way you work with Business Administrator Kraus in doing this. Just for your benefit, Mr. Mayor, Business Administrator Kraus had the same job in a PATCOM as the captain has here. She did the budget. She did all of these different kinds of things. She's been involved in all these shared service agreements, does all of the contract negotiations before they come to me. I don't sit in on all of those initially. It's kind of like good cop, good guy, bad guy, whatever you want to be. She takes the hit. She's done an awful lot. And I think that when we look at just a $25,000 increase in just our dispatch services, how important they are. They don't dispatch police services, they dispatch all of our services. When we look at a reduction of $10,000 in animal control, all of those are shared service agreements and things directly involved in that. This has really been a real good relationship. And I really thank you for the knowledge that you brought here and the working relationship that you guys have had. You have a long-term working relationship, and it's just really, really helped. And I'd like to thank you for everything.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have volunteer emergency services and fire prevention. No?
Well, that's all we're at. That's all we're at.
Well, I'm gonna start off for the volunteer emergency services. Yep.
Here.
So the fire departments did request increases in their reimbursement. So last year for 2023, they each received $45,000. They've requested that increase to $50,000 for each one of them for next year. I have not had the same request from the ambulance corps. I did increase equipment repair and maintenance just based on our experience over the past few years with maintenance and repairs across the street for any of our volunteer emergency service vehicles. So that is going from $35,000 to $50,000. We've already spent 53 this year. So it's imperative, obviously, that we have the funds available for them to be able to fix the equipment when it needs to get fixed. Other than that, the total for that volunteer emergency services line for 2023 was $345,000. It's increasing to $372,000 for next year. And then Lou, if you want to discuss fire prevention.
Okay, we'll start with key projects and tasks that we did during 2023. We streamlined the short rental procedure and process. We implemented that program. Inspectors have been out there all year. The back page, you can see the difference in the monies. We did the same with the long-term rental process. Streamline that. We're doing those inspections also. Capital project that we had for last year was upgrading the repeater program for the town, and that's for the volunteers. There's certain spots in town that are dead spots, and that capital project addressed all of those. All right. Accomplishments during 2023. We established relationships with common management and the HOAs to get ahead of non-compliant rentals. We advanced protocols in place to implement NFPA 2024 code updates, which are coming for short-term and long-term rentals prior to the January release. Most towns and states are struggling just to get a handle on the non-compliant illegal rentals. Vernon's way ahead of that. For planned projects for 2024, I'd like to see some improvements to this building. We already did the sprinkler system. We already did the fire alarm system. The three items that are remaining that need to be done are the kitchen downstairs. The fire suppression system in there is 30 years old. It needs to be upgraded. I haven't gotten any prices on it yet. Also, in the police department, there are two rooms, one in the dispatch area and one for evidence, that have a halon system, which was outlawed some years back, and an FM 200 system, which is recently outlawed. So those two things have to be replaced. The variant that they're coming out with will be cheaper, and the inspection process, as far as fees goes for that, will be also cheaper also. I'd like to see some raises for my fire prevention staff, because we took on the short-term rental program, the long-term rental program. We're going for the training for the lead paint program, and they will be conducting those inspections also. All of those things are outside of Uniform Fire Code in New Jersey. As far as my line items, I could pretty much work with the framework that right now. I don't really need any increases. I do need new uniforms. I got a quote for $3,500. I can pay that out of my penalty account. I don't even have to use taxpayer dollars for that. And that's pretty much it.
Well, Lou, again, I'd like to thank you for the 4 years. We're very, very lucky to have a person like you are. Is this your third? You've had 2 retirements, I believe. what I want to get to is the experience that you've had.
Oh, yeah.
You've had experience what,
I got on the fire department in 1981.
and that's which fire department was that?
Hackensack Fire.
Hackensack. And you served that for how long?
I served there for 10 years and I transferred to Patterson.
Okay.
I retired out of there before I came here.
And it's really good that we've got this kind of experience here, knowledge. Lou talked about streaming the short-term rental and long-term rental inspection. That was desperately needed. Sometimes, individuals feel that, gee, we've been doing this for all these years. Why can't we continue to do it now? Well, they've been doing a lot of things for years. The inspections have not necessarily been going the way they should. That's a hazard to people living in those places. All you really need, Mr. Mayor, is for us to have one big fire, something happens, and then you've got the news media with a microphone in your face. Says, why in the heck didn't you do it? You don't want that to happen. And in addition, when the inspections are not being done, we're not getting the income that we should get. And that means that has to be passed on to other residents. So streamlining that short-term rental and long-term rental process is really important. The short-term rental process has actually, you have an idea how much we've collected short-term rentals this year?
I want to say over $35,000. Those are just in permit fees, but with
Yeah.
the short-term rentals, it also goes to the hotel occupancy tax. So that's substantially increased over the past couple of years.
So it's a little income, then we've got non-compliance rentals. And I think the last thing I want to talk about that Lou mentioned is the fire suppression system downstairs in the senior center, 30 years old. That's gotta be done. Heaven forbid, we don't want anything to happen down there, and especially with seniors, period. But Lou, you're doing a good job. Thank you so very much.
Sure.
But I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Next, we have DPW.
Morning.
Good morning.
Real fast, we'll go over task and accomplishments for 2023. As you may know, all know that you got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yep.
We're doing a lot of things that it's just, to me, it's just our normal work. So this is something that as far as accomplishments go, this is just something our normal everyday workload.
Yep.
Obviously, this year we've done some oil stoning, Andrew Drive, Bucky Lane, Storms Estates, the Summit. We did some really heavy damage repair from rainstorm on from July 7th. Repaired damage to our big shed from the windstorm on July 6th. We've been paving some secondary roads, which we're finally getting a system in place over the years where they've been neglected for so long. We're finally getting started on that. And we've done half of Clifford Lake, Lisa, Tulo, Mesa, Bantry. Those were desperately needed. And as far as 2024 goes, we're going to continue on with that. We started mapping out the stormwater locations. We paved half of Sand Hill this year. We're looking to pave the other half of Mountain Road next year to get that finished. We installed the electric service at Maple Grange Maintenance Building and to the pavilion at Veterans Park. That is still in progress yet. The DPW snow roof retention system, that was a safety issue that we were going over the last year or so to get that in place. That's finally going to happen. We just installed a new water line at Veterans Park for field use. We replaced the generator at Lake Panorama for the police generator. We secured the safety grant for the DPW for safety equipment. Our transitioning to using more salt for our plow seasons. It's just something that to help us get aligned with the stormwater regulations and things, and less of a cleanup at the end of the season. We did the scoreboard upgrade at Maple Grange Park. We also bought the cedar boards for the community garden, which we'll be working on through the winter. We are in the process of replacing 5 windows at the police department that desperately need it. We replaced the electric panel at the police department that actually shorted out last year. We replaced the doors at the PD and senior center, animal control, and the employee entrance downstairs. Projects for 2024. Obviously, we're going to continue mapping out for the stormwater. Like I said, the Glover Mountain Road. We're going to start repairing the garden lots. We're also going to start up updating the restroom facilities, all 3 buildings, which is desperately needed. Pave the hiking path for the Folk Park. Pave the lower parking lot at Maple Range Park. Unfortunately, that was supposed to be done this year, but the vendor ran out of time and started getting too cold, so we had to put that off. Again, continue the secondary roads for paving. One thing we're going to have to keep an eye on is obviously more dead trees. There's more and more out there we get every day. There's ones that we can't handle. So we have 2 contractors that we usually call to come and give us quotes. Let's see here. And then also we started the 2024, obviously the private communities for the plowing. That's something we're still working on. Well, one thing that we're working on now also is the ladies' locker room at DPW, since we have a lady working with us now, and then our clerk and our custodian for finally installing a new locker room. That's in progress right now. Let's see. The other thing we're doing is update the township lighting in all the buildings. In fact, I got a call in to find out when they're going to start that, because we talked the last meeting we spoke to them. We wanted to get them started, and I know they were supposed to give us not a quote, but a list of what they're going to do as far as when they're going to do it. The other thing is vent cleaning in all 3 buildings. That's something that once the funds are there, I already talked to the service company this morning, and as soon as we have that PO back, I can call them and they can come in. The one thing with that is though that they'll have to be on the weekends because the offices will have to be closed. What they'll do, they'll come in and cover all the machinery, all the desks as they're doing this. So we're like, we'll have to have maybe a custodian or one person come in with them on a Saturday to get this done. We didn't find any mold in the system, but with the dust and moisture that was in there, they recommend getting it done, which would help with anybody that has any kind of allergies. So it's a no-brainer. The one thing that we're also doing that it's going to happen is replacing the leaking boiler at the DPW. That's something that we've already been in contact with the plumber, and as soon as, in fact, he's the same plumber that's doing the water line at the flats. So once that's done, he'll come up and get that started. I do believe that is it. There might be a couple of things that I've missed because obviously over the years, it's something I just keep boom, boom, this. Now, we did have a problem with obviously the help. We had some people left us and just trying to backfill those positions is rough. In fact, right now, as far as the mechanic position, we had to re-advertise for that. The gentleman that we had originally hired didn't work out for us. This is something that I'm not going to rush this. This is once the mechanics are back. We have some vacations coming up this week and then December. So we can have the time to actually pick what we're looking for, the best candidates. One thing that we're able to do also with finances help, we were able to make the assistant director position. That's Howard Leisure, unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. But that's been a big help because we started with the stormwater regulations as far as mapping that stuff out between him and one of the supervisors getting started with this for the 2025 is it going to be, I think.
So it's an ongoing, I think it's over a 5-year period. There's a bunch of things that have to get phased in.
Right.
That we have to consider for not just manpower, but like equipment too.
Right, exactly. So that's pretty much it for as far as that goes. And we get into the budget here. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Make it the right one here.
Well, you're getting that. I'll just go over, for salaries and wages for each one of the like departments that are in DPW. There's obviously the majority of these individuals, like 95% of them are contractual employees, so it goes based off of the AFSCME contract. So for next year, for 2023's budget, it was $1,456,000. Next year, we're anticipating $1,515,000, $515,320. That is inclusive of adding an additional 2 employees, so that we can handle coverage for the stormwater maintenance, because again, stormwater maintenance is not just going around and mapping all the stormwater drains. They have to be maintained. We have to street sweep now 4 times a year. Which also requires us to get another street sweeper, which we were, I think, planning on doing anyway. So there's a lot more that goes into this. We also have to start replacing the stormwater drains. It's just a lot. It's a lot that we have to consider.
Absolutely. As far as the line, I was able to, actually, we were able to hold the line on a lot of them. I'll just go over the ones that we needed to add. The line painting. The line painting was based on a conversation we would have with Denville Line Painting. They're looking at possibly up to a 10% increase for materials. So we raised that from 45 to 50,000. Road materials also, we went from 70 to 75,000, just simply because of the cost of the oil, the materials. That's the biggest complaint. But increase. As far as the lease, went from 2,000 to 10,000. For drug testing went up 500 to 1,500. The tree removal went from 30,000 to 50,000, and again, it just costing us a lot. Anywhere from these, for example, these 2 trees on Sand Hill Road, that cost us $3,000 to just take 2 trees down because we couldn't handle it. So,
and this is based, I mean, your tree removal, you've already spent, as of the end of October, it was already at 41,000. So, these numbers are not out of whack with what we're seeing. It's costing us.
right. Again, we take that and look as much as we can, but there are ones that are in electric lines or leaning toward houses. It's better off having somebody else take care of it. Okay. See where we're at here. Next up is Lee.
Oh, do you have recycling?
Yeah, yep, I'm sorry, recycling. Do that. Recycling salaries stayed the same, those are part-timers. Okay. The recycling equipment, we raised that from $500 to $1,000. We have a shredding machine that we operate on Saturdays, so it needs some service. I don't know what it's gonna need yet, but at least we'll get started with that. As far as the salaries again, the contractual, now the biggest one that it's been an issue for a couple of years now is the building repairs. The buildings are getting older, so we went from 50,000 to 70,000. Unfortunately, it's just, the building was built in 72, so there's some things we have to update and obviously work on, and some things that we don't plan on, like water leaks or whatever. But unfortunately, you know what? It just had to do it. The fire system went from 5,000 to 8,000. Now, let's see here. That's the only things that was raised here. Next up would be all right. Salaries are talked about. Vehicle repair, we raised that from 210,000 to 220,000. We will raise that 10,000 simply because of the fact of the leases that we have for the 550s. And we are slowly replacing the older, bigger trucks as we go. We should have one, hopefully the next one will be delivered sometime in the middle of December. It's just, it's something that you don't know what's gonna happen. You could blow an engine, you could transmission, and your truck is, it's a pretty big money.
And we've been kind of backed up, just so that everybody here knows, we've been backed up with the enterprise leases because of COVID. So what happened was we put in an order for a bunch of trucks. They canceled the order on us. We put in another order for Rams instead of the Fords, right? They canceled that on us then because of the chip shortage.
Right.
So everything's just been pushed. We've been trying to get vehicles when we can find them. We were able last year, I think, to find a couple that happened to be on a lot, so we outright purchased them.
2 Chevys.
But yeah, we've been struggling, which has left them with some older vehicles, but hopefully we're starting to see some getting delivered now, a couple years later.
Let's see here, parks, salaries, already looked at that, as far as, contractual. Now the maintenance are the same. We've been lucky, knock on wood, with some of the repairs that we've had to make over there. So I think we're good with that. We may have a couple of things popping up next year. We'll see what happens, but as far as like I'd like to see eventually, get us cameras over there. You know, do something over so we can see what's going on, after everybody leaves, because we've had a couple of cases of vandalism that, it just, you wouldn't think so, but kids, they climb up on the building, on the roof, and, it's just something that, you try to avoid it, that's all.
Along those lines, we have been working, so the issue we've had with the cameras and putting over there is having internet access. And there's like no internet service. If you've ever been in Maple Grange, there's nothing. And there's a concern over by Maple Grange and then going up across Lounsbury Hollow and down Samus Road. Again, there's terrible internet service. I know the chief and I think Tina as well, we've reached out to Verizon a number of times. They actually did come and met with the chief much earlier this year, I think in the winter of this year. And then it was left to the school. So they found a great place at one of the schools to be able to put a tower or an antenna or something. But then that is left with the schools to kind of decide what they want to do to move forward with that. Again, if that's installed there, it would then at least allow for service for people's cell phones, which I think is a safety issue.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work on that, but it's kind of left at the school right now. And we should probably follow up with them. Now that they have a new BA, we should have a meeting with them actually tomorrow. That's on one of the things. to
That's
talk about.
mine
Yeah.
too.
So hopefully that'll be taken care of, and then we can have something like cameras there to take care of that.
Years and years ago, when they first started that park, Verizon had, I don't know who they talked to, but they were talking about coming in and actually putting a cell tower just behind our maintenance building up on that hill. That would help out tremendously, but I don't know what happened, unless it fell through, but yeah, we gotta get something over there. It's all there's to it, so. So other than that, that's pretty much it.
Great.
Questions or anything? I know we're looking at obviously the plowing for the private communities yet, but I'm sure we'll get that figured out soon, so.
Yeah, so we did go out to bid for the private communities, so that's taken care of now. Hopefully have an award at the next meeting for those. And then we took over a couple of those private communities, the smaller ones, like 0.2 miles. We are taking Hidden Valley this year to see how it goes. That's the biggest one that we took over. It's
This year, that's 2024.
2024, yep. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
And I'm in budget mode, I think, this year.
Yep.
So that's the largest one we took over. That's just over 2 miles. The other ones we bid out, the larger communities like Highland Lakes, Barry Lakes, stuff like that. Great.
Mr. Mayor-elect, they mentioned the meeting with the school system. I believe B.A. Kraus communicated to you my invitation to meet, and rather than me meet, to you meet part of that meeting. So I know the meeting was changed, and I hope that you can make, hope you can make the new meeting. DPW, when people think about the DPW, they normally think about roads. And one of the things that I hope the public realize is that they do an awful lot of other things. First of all, almost everything that we do through the DPW, we try to get grants for it if we can. And we've been pretty successful with Business Administrator Kraus, with her skills in terms of being able to market and manage stuff that she learned from her previous job. And with our outstanding municipal engineer, Corey Stoner, his experience. Not only does he have experience here, but he also works in other municipalities, so he's very familiar with grants. And of course, Business Administrator Bright, we do the best we can to get as many grants as we possibly can. And we do get quite a few. And our road costs and things are still very expensive. I think one of the biggest things that's going to be coming up the next several years, going to be the thing with roads. The whole idea is that we really need to be able to try and find other revenue sources for roads if we possibly can. Because what we would have to pass on the taxpayers is pretty hefty. And that's one example here. The current cost of oil and stone materials, which no one really likes, is $4 a square yard. And the current cost for milling, paving material is $17 a square yard. That's a cost of 425% difference. Just difference. We would love to be able to eventually get to the point where we'll be able to pave all of our streets. But in order to do that, we're going to have to find some kind of additional income, a resource, revenue. And my best guess is that these costs that I'm quoting right now are probably going to go up. Again next year. So the grants are very important. As it relates to buildings and grounds, when we look at the list that they have here, you know, people don't automatically always think about DPW in terms of buildings and grounds. There's a crosswalk light for Veterans Park. I'll be updating the council and the public on that project. And a lot of the money, the cost of that is really coming from grants in cooperation with the county of Sussex. And that was actually led by Business Administrator Kraus. The DPW roof snow retention system. Replacement of leaky boiler at DPW and replacing 5 windows at the police department. People don't normally think about the DPW doing that, but when we have to have work done, they're kind of a workforce. And then the trees. So if you've driven around this town, I've never seen so much wood. I mean, everywhere. What is there some kind of bug, a mite or something that's killing all of these trees? But it's just all around the place, and it takes a lot of money. And then there's a recycling center, also too. Some of our recycling costs are going up, but all of that's included in the budget. So I again, as I've done with the other staff members, I'd like to thank Ed and his staff for all that you do. I know your challenge is going to be great as it relates to the road. That's one of the biggest challenges that I really see in the future in terms of being able to impact what people perceive as their services. Our roads are not paved perhaps as frequent as they should be or as they have been. And of course, people in that neighborhoods and street, I think that I remember Councilmember Rizzuto lives across the street from me talking about our road. The cracks in it looked like the back of an alligator, I think he said, or something of that nature. But we need to kind of get that done. But thank you very much, Ed, for what you do. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more discussions with the mayor in terms of what we need to do in the future.
Oh, absolutely. The one thing I want to touch base with you is the salt and the snow and ice rule. We were lucky. I got a hold of the county. The contract had run out back in June. And the new contract is actually less. From only 1-year contract. It was from July to next June. It's at $69 a ton, $69 a change, whereas before it was 77 a change, I do believe.
That's good.
This is something that, again, depending on who has the bid, it can fluctuate from anywhere from like 95, like you see at 97. Now at least it's down to 69. So that's something where I try to jump on that much as I can. You know, as far as like when I talk to Dell, you know, we get this left, I'm gonna burn it and put more salt in the shed. And the whole thing with the obviously the water issue, and I understand that totally. The only thing is people have to realize that we cannot get away from grids because of the hills. And right now, my plan is with, like I talked to you and Dell, our game plan is for, say, two loads of salt to 1 load of grit. Make it extra hot, be a lot less material to pick up come springtime. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have recreation and seniors. Morning.
Good morning.
I'm gonna touch base real quick on salaries and wages, because this is always an issue with the senior center. So few things. One, we had the increase, New Jersey state minimum wage increase for next year to $15.13 an hour, which is a 73-cent increase for each one of the employees that's down there, which does equate to real dollars. It's a few $1,000s difference. I don't think anyone thinks about like what that actually does, but that's what that does. So that's going to increase our salaries and wages in the senior center with, again, I anticipated a 2% increase. They're non-contractual employees that are downstairs. But with that, it'll move from $61,000 budgeted in 2023 to $68,000. In the past, this is pre-COVID, so we're now going on to the 4th year of this happening. The senior center used to be staffed by individuals that were supplied to us. I don't like saying that word, but really given to us through the county through a work program that was based on income levels. And unfortunately, the county does not have anybody that is qualified with those income levels to provide to us to assist us in the senior center. So it forced us to go out and hire our own employees so that the senior center is properly staffed to have lunches and events, obviously, too. But the lunches are obviously the most important thing, being the largest nutrition center in the county. So that's, again, why I think over the years of time between, 2020, 2019, and now you've seen a significant increase in that senior center budget. That's the reason why, because we've had to actually hire those individuals. And even then, we're still less than what we had before with the county employees. I think we had like 5 people down there at any given time, and we don't have that anymore. So that's why that's there.
And these are people who prepare the food and
Yes.
stuff. It's
Mhm.
not folks who just walking around. So,
And then recreation, that stayed the same actually this year. It's not moving from 2023 to 2024. So that's staying at 85, anticipated in both years. Just wanted to touch on that. Sorry, go ahead.
It for me. So I just wanted to start by saying I am so proud of the services and programs that we do through both the senior center and recreation. And a lot of that is due to coordinating with other entities, volunteers, the police. They're so involved in our community. They take part of things, our shared service with the PAL and the county senior services. But what we're seeing, there's a trend. There's 2 new groups basically in our town, and that is younger senior citizens who are much more active. So we've had to adjust and evolve and increase programming to meet those needs, but then also younger families coming in with younger children. So with the help of my part-time person, we have been able to introduce new programs specifically geared towards these younger children that they're not yet up to sports or involved in school or anything like that. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Just recently, we had our 2nd night under the stars. Turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning. We had over 271 participants. You can easily double that for their family members being there with them, plus over 50 volunteers. It was a great day. Our holiday market recently, we had over 1,000 people coming through shopping local small businesses. So these are just some of the few things that we just are so excited to be able to do. And to be able to keep the budget the same and still do those things, I think is pretty remarkable. Another big thing that we are able to be proud of this year is our newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter that comes out. Meg prepares it and she puts a lot of time and effort into it. And then it highlights our programs, events, special announcements. It's offered digitally and in print. It's sent to all the schools, and it really connects the community and lets everybody know everywhere what's going on and how to participate. So that's huge. In 2023, we also were awarded the Royd Grant once again through the DCA. That was recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities. And that is something I coordinate with Therapeutic Riding Stables in Warwick to provide time with the horses. For this year, we focused on teens and preteens to help them gain confidence and skills and interact with the horses and take some responsibilities on that they wouldn't normally. So that is pretty fantastic. Another big focus is on inclusive programming. We formed a focus group with parents in the communities of special needs children and trying to come up with some programmings and some things for them specifically because they feel that there's not enough out there. So that's another thing we're working on. As Ed mentioned, a big coordinated effort is to keep the parks updated for safety, sustainability, usability, and longevity. One thing that he didn't include was also the lighting project at Veterans Memorial Park. The notice to bid was in the paper just last week. So hopefully by spring, we'll have Musco lighting there on all the ball fields, making that park once again much more usable for our expanded youth generations. There's something called Jake's Law, which was introduced by Governor Murphy back in 2018. And it's an incentive for communities to build inclusive programming. And the new grant cycle for that just opened up. So I really want to take time to look into that to hopefully be able to get some grant money and put an inclusive playground in at one of our parks. So with all of that, and you helped me out with the salary lines already, my budgets for both departments, the senior center and recreation, are spot on, staying the same. Office supplies, equipment. We have some education in there for CEUs, service contracts under the senior center, the $50,000. That is for our busing that we provide for seniors and disabled people throughout the township. It also takes people to Newton, to Morristown, to doctor's appointments, food shopping. You just have to coordinate with it, but that's a service that we provide. Senior center activities stayed the same, and the programming. And then for recreation, office supplies, education for CEUs, materials and supplies, advertising. Our PAL contract stays the same. That's 45,000. Programs, porta potty rentals, mileage for attending all kinds of events and programs. They all stay the same across the board. And as I mentioned, we're able to provide these services at this budget level with all the assistance we get from the other entities in town. Any questions?
I'd also like to thank you, Michelle. I think that when we talk about having our town a better place to live and raise a family, I think that where most people see that is through the programs that really you work to produce for us. And, you know, we're having more people than ever using parks, different kinds of individuals, increasing attendance at our luncheon program. Just so many different kinds of things, and the feedback that I get. This program, A Quiet Time with Santa, that we're going to have.
It's Friday.
It's this Friday. Well, Mr. Mayor, just an example, I don't have a list of how many people with special needs exist in this town, but I think that there are quite a few kids who have special needs. I've had parents to come to me and say, you know, we'll watch on YouTube, or we'll see posts of kids going to the holiday tree light and having a lot of fun. And they said, we wish we could go. And mom would say, okay, I'll take you. And they said, no, please don't take me, because they can't stand the stimulation. I'm fortunate I don't have a child who falls into that category, but they can't stand the kind of stimulation. So one of the things that Michelle and her group did, they developed what we call A Quiet Time with Santa. And before our 7 o'clock normal, 6 o'clock, or whatever the case may be, normal Christmas holiday tree lighting, we have downstairs in the senior center a quiet time with Santa. We have Santa, his or her elves and other people around, and parents just bring their kids down. We don't rush over to them. We don't hug them. We don't say, hey, do this, do that. We just let them go at their own pace. And there's some kids when they first walk in, and I'm normally down there. And when they first walk in, they don't want you to touch them. And before it ends, you know, they're up talking to Santa. They're doing something. And the interesting thing about, and they getting their pictures taken, their family have their holiday pictures taken with Santa. And the thing that really blew me away, for lack of a better word, was the number of parents who actually came by my office and sent me emails and talked about how much it meant to them. I had no idea that there was going to be that many people down there. So those kinds of things are ones that I, as mayor, or perhaps you may not be aware of, that Michelle and her group are keenly aware of and bring it to our attention. The grants that we get. Two things, the grants and the volunteers are the key to us being able to provide the quality of services that we provide at little or no cost. I don't remember, do either one of you have the number, that dollar figure between what West Milford budgets and what we budget for services that's not as good as ours? But it's a major number.
Substantially different.
It's a significant number. So I'd like to thank you, Michelle, for all that you do. And I might join your senior citizen program
No,
a little later on.
add it
Maybe to get a free lunch. I don't know.
$2.
So there's no such thing. But thank you for everything that you do. Also, one of the most important things is this survivor tree seedling. You know, I get out there and I make the speeches and we plant it, but she's the one who did all of the hard work over the years, constantly applying for this. That's a major thing. It's one of the things I'm proud of. You know, that tree is going to be there, you know, hopefully for life. And as it grows and as other individuals decide to build things around and part of it, make it kind of a monument. And as young kids come over, to be able to take a look at it as part of their class and thing. So thank you very much for that. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have court.
Morning still.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay. Court. My projects and tasks, also accomplishments were mainly mandated by the state. So whatever the judiciary sets down is what we try to implement the best we can. We restructured our court schedule to begin implementing in-person court. So it's been 3 years now. And we finally, this past September, started in-person court once a month. So that was a big thing. Also, the money was much better, much better having in-person court. Having the people here is just so much better. So we still do Zoom court twice a month. And then people that can't come to in-person, we still do a hybrid. So we'll do Zoom and in-person at the same time. The police station had a lot of retirements. I work closely with the patrol lieutenant. So we have worked together very nicely to come up with procedures, and so that there's always, you know, there's a jail transport or scheduling police for trials. We've come up with a nice system and everything's going really great with that. We hired a couple new security officers now that we have in-person court. So that was a struggle for a while there. We couldn't get anyone hired, and now we have 3 different people to pick from when we need them. We had a new judge. He's integrated into the system great. There wasn't even a hiccup with the new one we have now. Everything mainly went uninterrupted. That's pretty much it for 2024. I'd like to find better interpreting services. For Vernon alone, it's been almost 11% increase in the Spanish population. We are not a bilingual staff, so
to get better interpreting services would be really, really great, something to look into. My budget actually increased by $400. Office supplies stayed the same, education stayed the same. Materials and supplies stayed the same. Credit card fees, we actually decreased a little bit. That hasn't been costing as much. I eliminated the uniform line and reallocated to interpreter services because it keeps going up and up. Everything that we need, it's either Spanish or Polish. So membership and publication stayed the same. Like I said, the interpreter, we increased it to 1,000 from 500. Alternate judge has stayed the same. Alternate court help and subpoena fees also stayed the same. And then salaries, I have one contractual employee and everything else is just.
Well, thank you. At a time when everything else is increasing, for you to decrease your budget is really pretty significant. And I had said earlier to the mayor that mayor-elect that some of these things are going to dictate where the money goes because and the mayor-elect's biggest challenge is going to be where do we get the income from? There are lots of people who think we're spending a lot of this money on employee salaries and other kind of things. It's really not the case. I would say that I have really been pleased and impressed with you during these last few years. I've been impressed with the respect that you have in the community, in the court community. We're really, really lucky here. And part of the challenge of Mr. Mayor-elect that you're going to see is that while we love this place, we love Vernon Township, it's extremely difficult to get people to come up here to work. People see this as kind of the other end of the world. You have people with certain licenses and certain requirements. We said, well, you know, homes don't cost as much in Vernon as they do in Bergen County. But a lot of this is like us owning a professional football team, as the example I like to give. It doesn't really matter whether you're in New York City or in Green Bay, Wisconsin. There's a certain dollar amount for a quarterback that if you want a good quarterback that you're going to have to pay for. And there are times when we go out and looking for people, we just don't get anybody. We just don't get anybody at all. So that's kind of going to be a challenge because we don't want to take, I don't use the word trash. We don't want to take people who are not good. We possibly can. So the people who we have here, one of the reasons why I reap so much praise on them, I'm so thankful that we have them. 100% of our staff's not like that. Boy, 90% of it is. And you're one of them. And thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to touch real quick on the prosecutor. So I budgeted the same from 2023 to 2024. That's $34,000. Obviously, that depends on who's appointed prosecutor and what the professional services is for that. So that will be the same. Next up is finance. So some of my 2023 projects that I've dealt with, one of the biggest ones for finance alone is that going into 2023 with the markets changing, it was brought to the attention of me in maybe April, May, it was right after we adopted the budget, that for note sales for the year, we were going to be forced to do an official statement, which is not something that's usually done unless you're going out for bond sales. When we do a large bond sale, which we did in 2020, and then in 2021, you do an official statement and a whole official bond rating process. Luckily, I didn't have to go for the bond rating process to go before Moody's, even though I've been before them now 3 times since starting in 2018. But we did have to offer up the official statement and issue that. So I worked with the auditor, with our professional financial advisors, and myself, and we put together a package that we went out for our bands. We had significant savings in our notes that we went out for in August. Without that official statement, they were looking at, I think it was like 50 basis points difference in what the interest rates that were being offered. So That was the biggest thing for finance, obviously, other than the budget, financial statements, audit, all of that jazz. But in addition to that, I also handled the water. So the Veolia negotiations have been ongoing for the year with our township and our special water engineer, Dewberry. I also handled with the water, some township planning portion of that on new developments that might be coming into town, and how the water will then hopefully aid those developments. Straight developments in town center, that includes the 55 and older, the Bright Horizons development. Also proposed developments at the end of Route 94 over by McAfee Ski. Also the proposed development on the golf course, and the development that is going to be on the Samus farm. I've been handling most recently pilot negotiations for Bright Horizons, dealing with the attorneys for that, and obviously the contractor. I handled the contractual obligations for the PBA contract, so I handled that. The sewer expansion in 2023, we were awarded the $3 million, $3.4 million for sewer expansion. And I also did the 2024 application for additional sewer expansion as well. So hopefully we can see money from the feds for that. That would be fantastic. And then the short-term and long-term rental streamlining, I know that Lou spoke about it. I think Marcy spoke about it too. With regards to the long-term rental, we didn't have anything in place prior to 2023 for long-term rental registration, the way we do for short-term rental registration. So we reached out to Granicus and have been working diligently with them to make that happen. That should be up and running in December, hopefully. They had some hiccups on their end with employee turnover, so it kind of got pushed on their back burners, but that'll be taken care of so that people can register their long-term rentals online and so that people can be more compliant. And then there were a couple of short-term rental areas of town where there were not a lot of compliance. So I worked directly with those communities and fire prevention to make sure that they were going to be compliant. So we took so that we made sure that we were treating everybody the same. And we don't have people that are not registered and people that are being required to be registered. So that is as far as my 2023 projects. I think a lot of those move into 2024 with regards to water and sewer, developments in the town center, pilot negotiations. I know that once we see these other larger developments come forward, there are going to be more requests for pilots. Even for the residential ones, a lot of the residentials aren't like 30 years, they're more like a 5-year just to get people in to buy the homes. So I think those are going to be ongoing. Plus we have 2 contracts that are expiring at the end of 2024. So those are my
Good.
next projects. So for finance, salaries and wages, I have 3 contractual employees in my office, so that's what the increase is for 2023. We anticipated $242,000. We're proposing $253,000 for next year. My O&E lines, that one does have a significant increase, mainly because of the increase in supplies like checks. We do have a competitive contract with Edmunds. That's our financial software. That was a 5-year term. It might be 7-year term. It's a 5-year term. And that will increase again next year. We're locked in the contract with them, which is nice, because they just took over the other firm that handles financial software. So I think if we didn't have that, we would probably be paying a lot more. Yes. So that increased a little bit. And I increased the financial consulting line again, because we've had to go out for an official statement this year in 2023. I'm just anticipating it again for next year. If we don't have to, fantastic, but I have a feeling that we're going to. So that increased from just under 18,000 at 17,950 to just around $21,000, $21,150 just for those increases. The next line we have is insurance, which I'll go through. So I'm going to go through insurance, shared services and utilities, and grants and statutory obligations. So insurance, fantastic. This past year, we moved to, September, not the whole year, but we moved to the joint health insurance fund here in Northern New Jersey, one of the joint insurance funds. So that's been a significant savings. We'll see that for the 2023 versus 2024 proposed budget just for major medical and health insurance. Also this year, we started a disability insurance policy, which we did not have with Vernon Township. Vernon Township was solely self-funded for disability. So if somebody went out on disability, because of the way the contracts are written, we had to provide our money directly to the employee on disability at the rate that the state provides. So during COVID, the state increased that to 80% of salary, which meant that if somebody's out on disability, we were still paying them 80% of our salary.
Yeah.
And not having an insurance policy in place to cover a portion of that. So I worked with our joint, with our, oh my gosh, Frank Camelli.
Yeah.
Our risk manager, I couldn't think of, I was like, what is that term? Our risk manager to find that disability policy or holder. We went with Standard Insurance, who also is our life insurance holder. So we got a great discount by bundling the both of those. So that has helped save us money as well. Again, as salaries increase, employee contributions towards health insurance increase substantially. So I'm keeping that the same for next year. So what I have budgeted for 2023 was $3.670 million. And then in 2024, I'm looking about 3.561 million. So that's a significant savings from last year to this year. Unemployment insurance, I kept it the same at 2,000. We are basically self-funded for unemployment. So what happens is if somebody goes on unemployment, we get the bill for it, we cover it. We're not paying towards unemployment insurance with every single payroll on an annual basis. So what I do is I move that $2,000 into a trust fund, and then that goes to pay those bills if they come in. I estimated increases for our standard insurance as well as our workers' comp. Last year, there were 5% increases. That's what I've estimated in this upcoming year. So for 2023, for our standard policy insurance, I went from 640 to 671 thousand, sorry. And then for workers' comp insurance in 2023, I budgeted 460, and I'm budgeting 483,000 next year. For utilities, so I went through every one of our utilities because they were a little crazy from 2022 into 2023. We didn't know what gas prices were going to be. We had no idea what the economy was going to do. I obviously still don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But I was able to decrease our gasoline costs. I think, you know, I estimated based on, you know, $4 a gallon last year, because that's what we were faced with, if not more than that, in 2022. So we did see a significant savings of about $14,000, $15,000 between last year and this year. So in 2023, it was $664,500. And then for 2024, I'm currently anticipating $650,500. I will know more once the MUA passes their budget for what the sewer fees are going to be, because I anticipated a small increase there. Our water fees have increased, but our electrical service costs actually have not substantially increased where I thought they were going to go. So I think I moved some money around so we could save a little bit more there. Unfortunately, SCUMA, I received the final SCUMA bill for 2020, or actually the anticipated SCUMA bill for 2024. And they are up more than $200,000. So last year we budgeted $2,583,119. Next year we have to budget $2,795,000. Sorry, $2,795,271. Those are just, that's not debt service. That is just treatment and capital expenses.
Those numbers again.
Sure. So last year we budgeted $2,583,119. And next year I'm anticipating using $50,000 from their rate stabilization fund. So the total we'll have to budget is $2,795,271.
Okay.
Okay. Obviously, that is offset by revenues from the MUA. Be clear. It's offset by revenues from the MUA. Yep. Next, there's shared services and grants. So I anticipated the same for shared services. This didn't print out correctly. This same for shared services as last year. Other than the financial administration, we have a contract in place with the MUA. So next year is $95,600. That's up from $92,100. That covers finance, tax, and administration for the administrative and financial services for the MUA. The other one, so radio communications, I know that's 15,000. We're still negotiating some of those animal control contracts. So I kept it the same, but I anticipate that's going to increase for next year. Senior Center, Senior Citizens, that's for the nutrition program. That's $27,700 that we get from the county to offset that nutrition expense. And then the school gasoline, I kept it 20,000. I have to see what their actual year to date is. But I think that that's a reasonable amount to anticipate. That's for the shared service that we have with the school to use our gas pumps. For grants for next year. So I only have confirmation for the way grants work is I can only anticipate what I have paperwork on. So if they say, yes, we're definitely going to provide the grant to you, that's what I can anticipate in next year's budget. So even though I know we will probably get the Clean Communities grant, which is around $60,000 every year, I can't anticipate it until that comes in. And then we do our chapter 159 resolutions to include that in the budget as the year goes on. So just for next year right now, I have matching funds for grants. That's for the recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities grant. We know we're getting that grant, so I anticipated the matching funds requirement for that as well. We're going to get the Safe and Secure grant again. That's $32,400. We just got a federal grant in for body armor, and I want to say it was like $2,300. I just got that in, I think, Wednesday last week, so it's not on this updated schedule. And I don't have the number yet for the state, which I'm sure we will have for next year. The Municipal Alliance is also staying at $7,472, which that grant used to be over $21,000. And then when COVID hit, they took all that money away. So that money used to offset the costs at the PAL, and it's obviously a third of what it was before. So they see a hit in that. I know it comes through the town, but to be clear, they see a hit there. And I just got a check today for the National Opioid Settlement was $1,900. So there'll be a chapter 159 on that at the next meeting. That money is money that comes in. The chief mentioned that before. That just comes in and we do chapter 159s because we never know when it's coming in. So. And the last item are statutory obligations. So this is our Social Security, our pension contributions, and the Municipal Services Act, which is the snow removal services for the lake communities and private communities. I can't just say lake communities. So Social Security, I'm anticipating $690,000. That's up from $675,000 last year. Our pension bills, they finally came out. So last year we spent $629,839 on the public employees retirement system. That is going up to $709,799 for next year. Again, this is a state mandated pension obligation. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about it, and the state doesn't care about our caps. For the police and firemen retirement system, last year we were billed $1,317,561. Next year, we're being billed $1,398,685. So again, that's a substantial increase as well. That's mandated by the state. The beginning of last year, the state did release some items that had never been outside of cap. And they did include portions of the pension increases. They said last year they're not doing it again for 2024. So I don't know if that's the case. It could be that they're entirely inside cap, which is what they usually are, and none of it being outside cap, which again, it's kind of like an unfunded mandate that we have to do. I kept our defined contribution retirement program. That is the mandated part-time retirement program that the state mandates that we have for our part-timers. So that's being kept at $7,000. And then the LoSAP program did pass on the referendum. So I'm estimating $80,000. That is all outside cap. So we don't have to worry about them being inside cap in our appropriations, which is good. Next year for the Municipal Services Act, I'm currently budgeting $350,000 for snow removal services. We did go out to bid. All the lake communities, all the private communities were bid out. And I think they looked reasonable compared to what I saw at the hourly rates that like the county got the year before. So I think that it's definitely better than what they got. And we're gonna have to see what that looks like. We do have money in our snow trust fund to be able to cover us if we're over on that expenditure though. We did take over 5 communities ourselves, maybe 4.
5, I believe.
5, I think we took.
Yeah.
And then we bid out another 5. So that's where that stands. I don't know. You have any-
I would, I had said at the beginning of this hearing, and Mr. Rizzuto hadn't come in yet, that there are costs that our municipality and actually every other municipality in New Jersey must absorb because we have no way of avoiding these costs. And she just went through some of those. We're just told what we're gonna pay. And then there are minimum tasks that the municipality must perform by law. And as a result of some of these costs and some other things, but approximately 88%, that's over, I've averaged that out over the past decade plus. 88% of municipal budget, almost 90%, have gone to just 7 major categories. And so the major challenge that the mayor and the council is gonna have is determining where we kind of get the resources from and how we might structure some of this. But the last thing that Ms. Bright just presented just indicated what some of those are. And we do have some things in the work, especially some of the Municipal Service Act. Individuals who've been directly involved in that has been Business Administrator Kraus and our CFO. And I know you've been going through the bids, working those kind of things out. Some of the information, Mr. Mayor, by the time when you are sworn into office, would be much more concrete than what we have here. As Mrs. Bright says, that there's stuff that she can't anticipate until she has paperwork on it. That's what the law said. Although she might know she's gonna have that. Some of that information might have come in by then. So I think that the framework that we want to leave for you will be one that will be much more concrete, much more specific. And of course, as you have your individual conversations with your department heads and others, it'll make it a little easier. Clear for you to make a decision. Nothing's gonna be easy, be clear for you to make a decision. So with that, we've filled our square, we've had our budget hearing. And one of the things I've tried to do, not just to have it fill the square, okay, Mr. Zito, but to really to do this time in a way that will be a real strong framework. Although we normally don't have any question and answers, but out of respect for the council member, you have a question, sir?
Yes. Right, were you able to break down, or do you break down in your normal course of setting your budget up, the amount of discretionary versus the non-discretionary funds? By that, I mean those funds that are all contractually obligated either by contracts, or insurance, or anything like that, versus those funds where you literally have discretionary decisions and the ability to make an impact as a percentage of the budget.
I don't usually do that just because we break down each individual department and each department sometimes has contracts and sometimes they don't.
If I may make a suggestion. So much of our budget is literally non-discretionary.
Right.
Mandated.
Right.
It's mandated. You either pay it or you get shot. So if you could break that down, I don't care, it doesn't have to be broken down by department or anything, but if 80% of your budget is non-discretionary, where you have to pay it, and people are calling for a 20% decrease, taking 20% of 20% is going to be very productive. And I think just that becomes somewhat helpful to the mayor and also to the council. Secondly, mayor was talking about the cost of paving. Now, there are 2 types of paving. There's the economical, the coach rate that we get, which is oil and stone, and then there's what everybody wants, first class, which is, that much tar and asphalt. And could you give us what the current differential is between one versus the other? Because when people say, well, I'm willing to wait, well, they're willing to wait as long as they're first. After that, they don't want to wait anymore.
Well, I think we probably have a better idea of working with, DPW and guys putting together this particular program. And I know I submitted a 5-year projection that I worked with, way back when. I don't know if it's still applicable, but the secondary roads, the roads and the tertiary roads don't necessarily get the same amount of traffic.
True.
That's why they're called secondary and tertiary. So if we could come up with some type of program where we could be looking at those versus the primary roads and perhaps also highlighting the roads that belong to the county and that are not our responsibility and how we should handle potholes or breakdown and stuff like that, and who we should contact, the public should contact at the county. I'm tired of getting people saying, oh, it's all the same, and it's not really, so. Those are just my 2 comments for better or worse.
Those are very wise comments, Councilman Rizzuto, and I appreciate you mentioning those. I did mention earlier, I've got a current figure in terms of response, the difference between the cost of oil and stone and paving. The current cost for oil and stone materials is $4 a square feet. And the current cost for milling and repaving materials, which is the thick stuff, is $17 a square feet. That's a 425% difference there. And when we've been able to look at, for example, a particular subdivision. And when I have individuals who say, you just paid my subdivision with oil and stone, I want the pretty stuff.
Yeah.
So I take those figures and said, this is what it would have cost the town, the taxpayers, to pave yours with the regular pavement as opposed to that.
Could you ask somebody to extend that to, let's say a half mile, every half mile, what that would cost? Because I don't think people understand the total by virtue of square foot.
Yeah, good point.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, it can be done.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Thank you for coming. That ends our regulatory budget hearing. All right, thank you.
Thank you.